Hey, it's Sam here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's a nutrition video as we're covering all aspects of bodybuilding in these daily videos. Just had a couple of workouts the last 2 days if that's more your thing. But I've picked up on something that I thought would make a great video, something really important that can set plans right or be the reason why they're wrong. And that's cooked weight versus uncooked weight on all your food. Basically, when you cook your food, it's going to change the water content. Either it's a carbohydrate that you cook with water, boil in water, like rice, potatoes, such like, or it'll reduce in its weight as it loses moisture, like cooking your meats and stuff. Now, most people go by uncooked weight for all their meats, so I'm not going to do my practical example with the meats today. I'm going to do the practical example for your carbohydrate because that's the most important in manipulating diet for a couple of reasons that we'll come to. And I'm going to give you a practical example today from the carbohydrate that I'm using as my main source, is the white jasmine rice. I'm going to take the same amount of rice here and I've just cooked a whole bag and we're going to compare what it comes out as. So it's the same nutritional content, it's the same rice, but it's picked up all of that water from cooking it. It's going to weigh more. So this bag is 1/2 kilo, 500 grams there. And I'm always using the same. I'm always cooking a whole bag to get through a day. This is an identical one that's just gone in the rice cooker here. Now, on my kitchen scales, this is obviously one of the most important tools of the trade. More important than most of your machines in the gym, in fact. If I weigh that bag, it's come in on these scales at just over 1/2 kilo. It's actually come in at 507 grams. That's the uncooked weight of that portion of rice. Now, I'm going to put the bowl on and put everything that was in the other bag in here and see what it comes to. Because sometimes when you just estimate these things by what it says on the packet or a calculator online, it's a little bit different to how it works in practice. Because if you use a rice cooker, it's going to absorb just about all the water that you put in there. And you can have it vary depending on how squidgy you want it, where you put more water in and it'll absorb it all and weigh more consequently, even if you were cooking it just by boiling it the old-fashioned way. So if I take this, I'm going to zero it for the bowl and just weigh out everything that we've got here. That whole packet, which started off at 1/2 kilo or 507 grams by these kitchen scales that may be slightly off, but as long as you're using the same equipment or utensils each time, it's going to be consistent. So struggling to get it all in the bowl here. I'll give you a result one way or another. Maybe that I need to do it in 2 portions and add them together, but I'll give you a result to demonstrate my point with this, because this is really going to throw off your carbohydrate estimations, which can throw everything off if you're eating the same every day. Throw your entire plan off, and we want things consistent. We want to know what's going on. Nearly there. It's really overflowing. I got very big bowls to eat out of for these monster meals that I'm doing while bulking here. If I just squish it in a bit, it'll be fine. And that'll make sure I actually capture it all. Nearly there. Right, that's that. Get it all off the spoon. A bit fell off onto the scales as well. There we go. That has come in at 1,291 grams, the cooked weight of the same stuff. So it's more than doubled. You could say, 1,291, maybe round it up to, just to illustrate the point, round it up to 1,300. It's more than doubled, but it's actually closer to tripled in weight than doubled, because, 300 is closer to 500 grams than nothing. So You could be getting this completely wrong if you're going by, you've got a plan that's written by uncooked weight, or you calculated your nutrition based by uncooked weight, but then you were weighing it out from a cooked batch. If you were doing that, you'd be having less than half the carbohydrates that you thought you were. Or if you're doing it the other way round, where you were going by a plan that was made by cooked weight, and then you were weighing everything the uncooked way, you'd be having more than double the amount of carbohydrates. So that could be a real problem when trying to gain weight, gain muscle, bulking, or on the cutting side, respectively, in those two scenarios. So definitely something that you need to be aware of. And I actually think that if you're using one carbohydrate, I'll pull this all back because I'm not going to, as hungry as I am, I'm not going to eat all of that in one go. I'm going to have about half of that for my food now. As hungry as I am, it takes me 2 meals to get through that load. So I'll scoop that up and keep the rest warm in the rice cooker. So I recommend, as I was saying, I recommend that you do this yourself and go through this process by using the amount of water that you would have to have it the kind of texture that you want it when it comes to things like rice, potatoes. Usually we go for rice because it digests easier and is more palatable in quantity. But you try it out with yours if you were going to go by cooked weight. Now I always recommend that you actually do it by uncooked weight for these things, because it's going to vary less depending on how much water you used on a different day perhaps. So for ultimate accuracy, I'd say just go by uncooked weight. But the reason why some people go by the cooked weight is because they're batch cooking for several days. So they'll cook several days worth and then maybe weigh it out from a cooked batch that they've kept in the fridge, so that they're doing meal preps to cover several days or a week. Now, you wouldn't have to do these calculations if you were going to do, say you were going to have a diet where it was going to be, that 500 grams of uncooked weight rice every 2 days. Your plan was to have 250 grams by uncooked weight. You could cook for 2 days and then from the cooked batch not even weigh it or even know the cooked weight and just eat half of it. But one way or another, you're going to have to calculate it, think it through and control it, and know that it's nearly 3 times as heavy once it's the cooked weight. So you can, if you were going to do something like this, but you wanted to be weighing it out perhaps because it was going to be different day by day because you're on a carb cycling diet, then it would make sense to do a test like this to know what the factor of multiplication would be between the uncooked weight and the cooked weight for the one that you prefer to use and the amount of water you use for it, and then use that multiplication factor when calculating how much you're going to have from the cooked weight batch to vary your carbohydrates day by day, which we sometimes do when we're in a cutting diet where we do perhaps 2 or 3 low days and then 1 high day on the carbohydrates. So I picked carbohydrate today because it is the one that we manipulate the most, and it is the one that's going to have the most effect on gaining or losing weight. And the other reason, because I am going to talk about everything relevant to bodybuilding here, the other reason is when people start using other methods when they're way down their journey. Sometimes bodybuilders will use exogenous insulin, and if you're getting your carbohydrate grams wrong or you don't know them and you're doing that, that could be extremely dangerous. So I think it's worth mentioning that at this juncture as well, because for anyone, I mean, I don't recommend it. Obviously, talk to your doctor about such matters. I don't recommend anything like that at all, but I am going to talk about everything that does happen in the real world, and I think it's worth mentioning that someone who was going to do that in the real world would definitely want to know what their real carbohydrate grams are and not get that confounded by this difference in cooked weight and uncooked weight. So that's something you're going to have to master, or one would have to master if they're ever going to explore such other avenues with their bodybuilding stuff. And those are the two reasons why I picked carbohydrates to demonstrate this. But it's extremely important, and I hope that if you've never considered this before, this is something that you can go back to your plans and your calculations and get a handle on, because it may be the roadblock between why you are not gaining or why you're not losing body fat if you haven't got control of these carbohydrates here. And this was multitasking for me, because this is now meal 2 of the day in my bulking journey, and I'm going to finish up the video and talk to you while I eat it now. So while I was getting set up here, I did the calculation on what the multiplication or division factor would have to be for that particular carbohydrate in the way that I cook it, and it's come out at 2.55. So, you know, you could sort of approximate it to 2.5 or say 2.5. So in this scenario with this food, for me to have the equivalent, if I was going from a cooked batch and measuring the cooked batch that was sitting waiting in the fridge or whatever, I would have to have 2.5 times the amount of what the uncooked weight nutrition would be. Or if I'd worked out my plan based on a cooked weight, I'd have to divide the amount by 2.5 to figure out the uncooked weight if I was going to make one meal from fresh. So if any of this is confusing you, or you have questions, just drop them in below, because I do respond to all the comments at the moment, and I'll explain further and hopefully make this make sense. But it's something that's worth thinking about. If in doubt, just go by uncooked weight and cook your stuff like for one day, that you've got 1 day's worth of grams, and divide it up by meal. But definitely if you're going to do cooking for multiple days and then be weighing things out from a cooked weight, this is something you need to get a handle on. And you wouldn't have to like measure the cooked weight every single day thereafter. Once you get used to how much it is in a plate, or how many scoops with the utensils you're using, you can kind of eyeball it after you got it right for, you know, say 4 or 5 consecutive days. But it's very simple for me in my current mode, because it's just 1 bag of that stuff per day, and then my other carbohydrates, 6 slices of whole grain bread and 5 scoops of cream of rice, and that's it. But yeah, it's not the most imaginative meal ever, but chicken and rice there. These things become a cliche because they're popular, and they get popular because they work. So a lean protein and a starch carbohydrate is often the best choice here. As I'm doing a video every day, it's going to be very quick to build a whole library here in this channel of really everything that you need to know for changing your physique in the coming months and the rest of this year. So if you're interested in seeing it all as it comes and seeing how I apply this with my journey, then consider subscribing. And if you want to make requests for videos or see more of a certain topic, let me know in the comments, and I pick all of that up. But a lot of the content I'm putting out is my workouts, because I'm training very hard. I'm getting to the heaviest body weight I've been on this round of bulking up, so most of the time I'm basically 300 pounds, but I'm not going to count it as finished until that's my morning weight, and my morning weight is hovering about 295, 296 occasionally. But it wouldn't be happening and it wouldn't be progressing if I didn't have a handle on this, that's for sure. As much as we love the training and find that the most enjoyable at the time, and the most like interesting to watch, for me to really show you how this is done, it's going to take videos in the kitchen like this as well, because I've generally found helping people that more often than not, the missing link between the kind of progress they want or the kind of look that is desired, nutrition is the weak link, the one that needs the most attention. So believe it or not, when I'm helping someone, most of the conversation that's taking place, or the greatest part of the different topics, is coming from nutrition. And the greatest part of changes in a plan to keep it going in the desired direction is nutrition. The last thing that I hope you know, but there are no stupid questions, and I sometimes see this one, is the actual grams of carbohydrates. So everything that we did discuss in the video so far was grams of the product. The grams of the product, even when it's considered pretty much entirely carbohydrate or mostly carbohydrate, is not the same as grams of carbohydrate of that product. For example, this product that I demonstrated with, per 100 grams of uncooked weight, it is 77.6 grams of carbohydrate. So the grams of carbohydrate and grams of product is not the same. I just wanted to make that clear. So in terms of calculating your carbohydrates, if you'd planned by the uncooked weight, and you were measuring things out by the cooked weight, it's going to be 77.6% of the number of grams that you're out of whack. That is the difference of carbohydrate that you'd wanted. For example, if you'd wanted 200 grams of carbohydrate, that was the actual amount of carbohydrate that you wanted. You would need to have you need to find out how many 77.6s there are in 200. So it'd be 2.58. So it's going to be 2.58 servings of the 100 grams specified, because that's how they've done the information on this and most foods. So you'd have 258 grams uncooked weight of this to get 200 grams of carbohydrate that you decided to have. But that 258 grams that you'd have to have of uncooked weight, if you were measuring it out by the cooked weight, because you've done it before from this product, it was 2.55 times the amount. So if you were looking to have 200 grams of carbohydrate and you were measuring by cooked weight of this thing, 200 grams of carbohydrate would be 658 grams of the cooked weight. So it sounds like a lot, but obviously in that bowl was over 700, because I scooped out more than half of it. So it would be 200 grams of carbohydrate would be, less than that, so manageable. But I just wanted to specify how you actually would be an example of how you'd be working things out by grams of carbohydrate as opposed to the product as well. I'm going to make headway with this. It's going to take a little while. It'll only slow me down to talk all the way through it. But I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know for some of you this will be very much, day one stuff and something you've completely mastered. But I also know from experience that there'll be someone that chances upon this video that this is one of the key things that's holding them back in their progress. So if that's you, I hope all of that makes sense, and wish you the best with your progress again. Cheers.